Welcome to the Reach the Stars podcast, a collection of conversations with cool people who do cool things. Brought to you by Papercraft Miracles. Each week, we'll bring you inspiring stories of persistence, passion, and purpose. With your host, Jonna Willoughby Lore.
Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Jonna Willoughby Lore on the Reach the Stars podcast, and I wanted to thank you all for hanging in there with us over the last several weeks while we put out some episode recaps of the top 5 questions that we ask our guests at the end of each episode. I was really busy. I'm going to be really honest. I was really busy at work. My company got a big, huge, crazy order, and I had no time for anything except filling that order for over a month. And so I didn't have time to record any new interviews with anybody. So I'm really grateful that all of you kind of hung in there with us and enjoyed the recaps over the last couple of weeks. And this week we are back with brand new interviews with new guests. And we have lots of really fun interviews on the horizon for you guys to check out. So thank you so much for being there with us and hanging in there. And I hope you enjoy this week's episode and next week's episode and all the episodes after that. All right, y'all, enjoy the show. Welcome to the Reach to Stars podcast. I am your host, Jonna Willoughby Lore. And with me today, I have a really special person. Her name is Ann Bernard, and she is the master of first times, a serial entrepreneur and a current CEO of 365 Firsts, Inc. She's the creator of the hashtag 365 First Challenge and the First Time Story Map Project. She has written a bunch of books. She is super awesome. She was a Marine for a really long time, has traveled the world, and does all sorts of other amazing things. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about her story. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Awesome. So will you tell everyone a little bit more about what it means to be the master of first times, which is the coolest title on earth? What?
Yeah, and I came up with it. It is self-appointed. So it's from, I have been on a journey of first time and new experiences for almost over 9 years. I'm getting close to a decade. Start rounding up, and that experience of always and constantly seeking new experiences and going next level in first times and everything that I do has provided me with just an amazing appreciation for life. That when I looked at reclaiming the title entrepreneur, so I've been around the block a couple times as an entrepreneur, and then I took a decade off. It was one of those things like, what do I have to bring to the world? And it's that experience that I had, all the value that I gained from being on that journey of first time and new experiences. And I wanted to make it in a way that people can easily embrace trying new things, get comfortable with that, and then maximize their life, like get more value out of living from it. So that's the business I started with 365 First. I created the 365 First Challenge, and I took on the title of Master of First Times.
That is so fun. So I'm really curious, like, what is your favorite first time story to tell?
So many. So when I first started my journey, I'm a big outdoors person, big into sports. And I kind of became a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. So, going canyoning for the first time, paragliding in Interlaken, Switzerland was just like the most amazing weekend. And then on my 40th birthday, I went skydiving, jumped out of the plane for the first time. So those are all like on the thrill seeker side of the house, and they're amazing. But what I then discovered, and I think I treasure more, is when I started exploring crafts, when I started making things with my hands and entering into the world that I had self-limiting beliefs about. So again, I joined the Marine Corps at 17, turned 18 in boot camp. So I went into a men's world. So that's why sports and, outdoors activity and all of that stuff, which always appealed to me, I was very drawn to, and I went that way. And I hadn't realized that I had put self-limited beliefs on myself that, crafts aren't my thing and I'm not good at that. Mm-hmm. And now that I have ventured into that world, okay, I'm not very good at it, but it's so rewarding. And it's so different that I'm really appreciating that. So it's, that's why it's hard to say what's the best, because anytime that you're exploring, you're learning, and you are having experiences, it impacts you different ways.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's so fun. I'm curious how was your experience joining the Marine Corps as a teenage woman? And what, I know it's a big question, but what was that experience like? And how is it shaped the way you interact with the world now?
I was so hooked. I became hooked on the Marine Corps at 16, and it my room, there was some Bon Jovi. Okay, I'm a child of the 70s. I was born in 77. So I grew up in the 80s. So my room had a pillow from Bon Jovi and the New Kids on the Block, and then the Marine Corps flag, and then all Marine Corps stuff. So it was a very weird room to walk into. It just attracted to me. So my high school sweetheart joined the Marine Corps, and he was writing to me all the cool stuff that he was learning and that he was doing. And while I was good in school, so I was top 10 in my class, I was class president, I had the perfect resume to go to college, it just wasn't fun and exciting, and I wanted more, and the Marine Corps just sounded really awesome. And then one of my brothers was looking at joining the Marine Corps, so the recruiter came to the house all the time, and there I am sitting at the kitchen table and just hanging on to every word they had to say, and I was like, yeah, this is for me. So I started hitting the gym, lifting weights. Again, this is in 1995, 93, 94. So I'm the only girl in the gym. So I started getting very used to being the only female, the only girl in certain environments. And I just knew that's what I wanted to do. It never crossed my mind that it would be a male dominated environment and that it would be the challenge that it turned out to be. But then I was also very prepared for that challenge, because I was always leading from the front, and I was always ready to do what needed to be done. That's kind of in my personality. So it definitely fit the Marine Corps, but it was still very, very challenging, because it was a different time back then than it is now. And you had to fight for your place to be accepted. And, but I wouldn't have had it any other way.
That's awesome. I hope that you doing your thing and just, making your place there made it easier for other women to follow after you.
Oh yeah, I was very determined to make sure that, our place, women's place in the military, and so many great, since then with the wars and so many, I was already too high up in rank to have the impact that some of the young ladies had in the wars, and proving what women could, truly do, being capable of. And, since then, the opening of all the different military occupations being open to all women, and women stepping up into those roles and shining. And we've progressed in a short period of time when, it became open of, hey, we can do this.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. I had two brothers who were in the military, and so they were always telling me what it was like there, and they were both always just man, it would be so hard to be a woman in this environment. They were man, the female soldiers we work with, they're so hardcore, because they have to be in order to kind of prove that they deserve to be there, quote unquote, whatever. So.
Yeah. But it's a great movement that's happening now. In my time, it's kind of you almost had to, I spent years, I'm talking about 10 plus years where the male Marines never saw me outside of uniform because I didn't want them to see me as a woman. You know, so you step into a role where, not that I'm denying that I'm a woman, but I'm competing, and it's the belonging. You can't be different to belong. Now things are changing to where women in the military can embrace the fact that they're women, and that, they want to bear children, and, that it has to be accommodated to support them having the ability to do that as women versus, it took a really long time, and there's still a long way to go for those changes to continue to happen so that women can actually serve in the military as women and being able to embrace their feminine side in the process.
Exactly. Hopefully we'll get there in our lifetime, that it'll just be normal. It won't even be a thing. It'll just be, hopefully, at least my kids will hopefully grow up in a world where it's not a thing. It's just how it is. That we appreciate
the value of everyone, gender, race, whatever beliefs, that we see the value and the importance of having them on the team because the team is better for it.
Awesome. So as far as starting your company, what year did you start it, and what was the kind of impetus for that? Like, what was your first time deciding to do first time?
So I started the 365 First Challenge. It started with the 365 First Challenge in April of 2019. So coming up on the 2-year anniversary. Yeah, it's like 9, 10, 11. Wait, 3 year. Wow. Okay. Time flies. Well, we can all, 2020 doesn't count.
Right.
And it was, so like I mentioned, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So when I left active duty the first time around, I started my first business, which did not go as planned, and eventually led to a failure. And then I started a tech startup, and I did that for a couple of years, went completely broke, lost everything doing that, learned a lot, but failed again. And I got to the point where the failures stacked up and really got to me. And I got to a very dark place. And at that point, I broke down, and I saw a 2-way out. One way was to give my life to God and, let him lead me to what I'm supposed to do, because I kept messing it up. And the other one, I was actually very suicidal, because I felt like I had done great things in the Marine Corps, and I had fought so many battles, and, I had accomplished a lot. And now here I am as an entrepreneur, and I'm trying all these things. I'm giving all I have. I have no fear. I'm not holding myself back, and I keep failing. And so I ate the humble pie, gave my life to God, and I ended up for 10 years, had nothing to do with being an entrepreneur. But I got it 10 years later. In those 10 years, I had just incredible, amazing time. Like, God took me just so many amazing places, and a lot of growth and self-development, and again, changed my relationship with life. But I got to the point where I was, getting out of the Marine Corps again. And what was I to do? Mm-hmm. And God put it back in my heart. Like, it's time to reclaim the title entrepreneur. Like, you're ready to get back into this. And like I mentioned at the beginning, that's when you ask yourself, okay, what's my contribution to the world? What has life taught me? What do I want to teach other people? What do I want to bring into their lives? And the journey of First Time in Your Experiences was clearly it. Because all of my business have always been ultimately about self-development. So, and this is the ultimate process. So action-based self-development through First Time in Your Experiences, because it's a lot of fun. And that's the other thing. It's very important for me to have fun in life. I think it's important for everyone to discover how to have fun in life. So I sat down and I'm like, okay, how would this work? What would it look like? And initially I designed the website, and I came up with a guide on how to start your journey. But then when I started asking people like, hey, what's the first time in your experience that you want to have? everyone defaulted to bucket lists. And they're like, what do you mean? And they would have like some sort of bucket list item. I'm like, no. Today or this week, what's something that you can do that you've never done before? And I was like, people were like, what? You know, they didn't think that way. They didn't see the opportunities in life that every day, or at least once a week, you have an opportunity to explore something that you've never done. So I knew that I needed to create an app that would make it super easy to make your lists and follow up. And so eventually got to making the app. But long story short, that's kind of how things got started.
So the hashtag 365 first challenge is challenging people to do something they've never done before every single day for a year? Is that what
No, so it was the name. So I wanted a number that was familiar, that was big enough for people to realize like there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to first time and new experiences, and then not too big that it was intimidating. So I have never done I've never done a year of first time every day. I know people who have, I have interviewed people who have, and I think it's incredible, but that's quite the undertaking. So for me, it's more about adopting a mindset and a lifestyle. So the 365 First Challenge and the hashtag is about bringing a community together of people that believe that continuously, so again, once a week, once a month, on a regular basis, that adding first time and new experiences is a great way to continue to develop who you are and to grow in your appreciation for what life has to offer.
Cool. So it's more about intentionally pushing your comfort zone to try something new, as opposed to continuously going back and revisiting the first time you did particular things.
Correct. Well, in first time storytelling, we do that. We revisit your first times. But yes, the 365 First Challenge itself. And the reason why I always say first time in your experiences. So a new experience, always the first time. But a first time doesn't have to be a new experience. And it's about, again, it's about self-development. So it's about going to the next level. So for example, I had a first this week. I was interviewed for the first time over Instagram. So I've done Instagram Live, but I had never done a live interview. So I've never interviewed someone on Instagram. I had never been interviewed. So my first was I got interviewed by someone. So I sell it, it makes you conscious of that you're alive, that you are being exposed to different things. So I celebrate first times, and you can expand that to, let's say you've never gone hiking. Well, you're going to have a first if you go buy your first pair of hiking boots. That's going to be a first, right? Your first pair of hiking boots. Then you go on your first hike. Then you reach your first peak. And then, there's different levels of peaks. So you might reach a, 2,000 feet peak, then a 5, then a 10. Mm-hmm. So and then you do your first overnight hike. So your progression, you look at embracing things and you want to get to, the next first that you've never had. Or again, you're trying something completely new, never done it, and you're entering a new experience.
I love this. I can't wait to check out more of your videos and your podcast, because I love hearing people's stories. So what are some of the most interesting first time stories that people have shared with you? What's a couple of your favorites?
So I love the activity stories. So we've had, different activities of snowboarding and other sports. Probably one of the most memorable one was, I forget her name, but I don't forget the story. She shared the story of the first time asking a girl out. And the reason why it's so memorable is because she was a great storyteller, and she really took me to that moment, to the point where my palms got sweaty. And I've never, I don't think I've ever asked a guy out. I mean, it became more of a natural thing, but she's just she literally went to that girl's workplace place to ask her out. And she, there were people in line and she was nervous and she didn't know what she was going to say. And she really put herself on the spot. So she's telling the story. I'm like, oh my God, how is this going to end up? And so that was a very memorable story. And I always play the first time lightning round with my guests where I give them 10 different first times. And I asked one guest, his name's Mike, and the question was, had he ever participated in a fashion show? And his answer was yes, when I was in a Mexican jail. I was like, what? So then he shared that story. So when you ask those questions, it's just incredible because of, the replies. One guy, I asked him if he had ever done calligraphy. And he said yes. And he's like, and it was actually a gang member in the school that taught me. So, it breaks down your preconceived notion when you explore, those type of questions and hear those type of stories.
That is so crazy. I was like thinking about, this guy just randomly saying, oh yeah, I did that when I was in a Mexican jail. Like, what? Like, that must be so fun to just have these kind of random stories that you weren't expecting just show up.
Yeah, and it's great because you see on people's faces as they're remembering, because you're bringing back some memory, and it's just incredible because they're like, I hadn't thought about that for years, and it brings back that memory for them and all the feelings that are associated with it.
That's awesome. So, what other things do you do in your life to encourage creativity about what new experiences you could add to your list? Like for people who are not used to doing new things, what would you suggest for them to be able to get a list?
So there are two different types of first times and new experiences. So there are the ones that you've thought about before and you just never gotten around to it. So you want to put those on your list and you want to start checking them off. But then you also want to think about, like I said, with crafts, you want to think about all of the categories that you've never considered, you've never even thought about because either, it's way outside your comfort zone, you're afraid, or you have some sort of self-limiting belief that it's not for you. You've never tried it, but you decided that's not for me. So, I would add items from those lists on your list and explore those, because I think you're probably going to discover a great deal more about yourself when you explore those. And I can promise you that even since it's a new experience, don't have pressure on yourself that one, you need to perform properly, that you need to do it right, that you need to know how to do it. Embrace the fact that you're going to be completely new at it. You're probably completely going to suck, but enjoy the process of learning, of being in that moment, of, just getting to do it, because one, your brain is going to love you for it. It's going to release all these great neurotransmitters, all these great chemicals for you. And you're making memories. You're going to have this, this experience, this moment, a story to tell. So go into it realizing I'm probably going to suck, but it's going to be fun. Like, I'm going to have fun with it.
That's awesome. It reminds me of one of my guests, Nicole Overcamp, and on the title of her episode is called Embrace the Suck. And it's just like, just go for it. And like, there's going to be things that suck and you just had to be okay with that.
Yeah. And
embrace the fact that you're going to fail sometimes and it's going to feel weird and awkward, but
or you're going to make a fool of yourself, or, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. But then realize that the more you do it, so the brain, once you start your journey, and let's say that once a week you're doing something new, like I said, it's very good for neuroplasticity. So you're waking up your brain, and then the brain's like, what is she doing? Or what is he doing? We're getting bombarded by a lot of things that we've never done before. So the brain always wants to be more efficient. So it's going to be like, how can we be better at this? And the brain's like, well, if I'm better at learning, then I'll learn faster, I'll save energy, and I'll be better at doing these things. So the brain starts making these connection, even though what you might be doing is unrelated, your brain is making the connection to things that you've done before, to the fact that you're constantly learning, that it needs to be a faster learner. And then you start having all of the benefits start coming through of having first time in your experiences. So you're improving your cognitive abilities. You become more creative because you're exposed to different things, and your brain's making different leaps and connections between all the things that you're being exposed to. You become more open-minded because you're starting to realize there's more to life than I realize as you're doing all of these different things. You become more comfortable stepping out of your comfort zones, and you become more spontaneous because you embrace doing new things. When something new comes your way, bam, you say yes. You don't think about it. You don't look for excuses. You know that, no matter what happens, I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to have fun with it, and it's going to be beneficial for me. So let me say yes, and let me do it. And then if you have the app, and future version of the app or will be designed to help you be even more spontaneous and, Johnny or Susie on the go, to be, able to have and capture those new experiences very quickly and share them with other people. One of them, my most memorable first, was not a first for me. It was, I took my 89-year-old neighbor out for sushi for her first time. And if you can share, if you can bring a first time and new experience to the life of someone that's lived for 89 years old, that's really cool. So, and it's not because she had a very incredible life. No one had ever asked her, like, hey, do you want to go for sushi? She was completely willing to do it. So it was just so incredible to be like, she's having this experience because, I invited her, like I introduced her to it. It was just a great time. And we had lunch, and I got to know her, and she had an amazing life. She was living still an amazing life. So, yeah.
That is so cool. Oh, what is the exact name of the app? If people were going to go download it, like where can they find it, and what's it called?
So it's on Apple and Google, and it's hashtag 365first with an S challenge. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time because if you create an account, it doesn't let you in right away. It has a bug. And even if you do the password recovery, it doesn't work. And my developers can't find the error. So the entire thing has to be redone. And unfortunately, I'm not a place where I can afford to do that right now. But that doesn't stop you from making the list, from getting in touch, from checking out the website, the social media, and getting a bunch of ideas on, the different things that you can do, and getting the support and encouragement in doing those things.
Cool. So you want people to go get the app or wait on getting the app until the bug gets fixed?
I would try it, because if it works for you, it's going to work. If not, you'll know right away. Okay. The other thing is I'm currently planning and we're going to start hosting the first full day event in April. It's called the Maximize Your Life Summit Series. So where, again, we are bringing a bunch of people in. So the first event is Health First. We're bringing a bunch of people in to give you exposure to different health firsts that you can have and how they benefit you. Then we're going to do life skills. We're going to do sports and fitness. We're going to do side hustles, and we're going to do volunteering, and we're going to do traveling. So yeah, because I think some people need the nudge, they need the support, they need the information. Like, they need the exposure, the nudge, and the support to know how to go about doing different first time and new experiences. So anything and everything I can do to help people, I'm there for you.
I love it. I love this. I can't wait to check it out some more. So it's about to be 5-question time toward the end of the show. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or you want to add before we head into the 5-question time?
No, well, real quick, if you are a storyteller, I would check out the First Time Story Map project. So we release different prompts, and you record a story on YouTube or Vimeo, post it there, and then add it to the map. So we have some prompts that are released right now, like the first team sport you played, the first prank you played on someone, your first time on the plane, your first flat tire. So it's those type of prompts, and it's a great way for you to realize how your past first times and your experiences have impacted and shaped who you are. And that can encourage you to continue to pursue new first time and your experiences, because you'll understand the value that they have in your life.
Oh man, I'm totally going to do that. I'm so excited. Okay. All right. So now it is 5-question time. 5-question time. Okay. Question number 1. Tell me about an experience that you've had in your life that shaped who you are today.
Had lots of those. But honestly, I would have to say that the biggest one is when I dropped to my knees and I gave my life to God, because that completely changed everything around, and it opened up my world, in that I didn't feel like I needed to accomplish and do all these things. It was more seeing the value of being alive and understanding that, life is magical. You have to engage with it and like grow with it and develop who you are, which is more important than what you achieve. Like becoming a good person, reaching your potential, living up to who you were meant to be. It's more important than, making millions of dollars or whatever it might be, which that used to be my mindset. Now I understand like who I am is what's of value.
I love it. I love this conversation. Number 2, when you feel defeated or overcome, what do you tell yourself to keep going?
That's a great question. I step back into the vision that's in my heart, that's in my soul, and that I just need to do the next thing. Like, it's not for me to make that entire huge vision happen, but what's the next thing that I can do? What's the smallest next thing that I can do that's going to make a difference and have an impact? And let me just do that and forget about everything else that is stressing me, that's, causing anxiety, that's overwhelming me. Just what's that one next little important thing that I can do?
That is really good. That's a really good tip. I definitely need to keep that in mind more often. Do you ever do those Enneagram tests, the personality tests?
I haven't. So the last one I did was a DISC test, and I was like a double D. It's just it's all like the only language I know and value is outcomes, is results. And I was like, well, that is true, but that's a problem. And I have to say, one of the best book that I'm currently listening to, I'm almost done. It's called The Molecule of More. It's all about dopamine. And that's making me like understand myself at a whole other level. So I think understanding our brain chemicals really help also understand why you value what you value, why you go after what you go after, and what does it mean in the grand scheme. And if you want to be different than what you are, what can you do to then generate the different chemicals that are going to help you. So like, for me, I am very dopamine driven, which is all about future. And, it's all about the vision. And I don't have a lot of serotonin, which that's about relationship and connections. So I have to do things that can produce more serotonin if I want put more importance on value in relationships. So it's like having that understanding allows you to make decisions on, okay, for this, I have to do this. For that, I have to do this.
I'm pretty sure that I'm like the total opposite, that I have just like way too much serotonin and not enough to balance the other way. That's really interesting. But the Enneagram test, there's 9 different personality types in it. And the book that I got about it has ways that you figure out which type you are. So most people are dramatically one of these 9 things. And some people are kind of mostly one with, a little bit of another one. But I am a 7, which is called the enthusiast. And that the main characteristic is that my personality type will do anything to avoid pain, fear, and loss. And that the way that I distract myself from terrible things that are happening is to start new projects and to continue to add a lot of things to my plate so that I'm always looking forward to the future and not dealing with whatever's happening right now. But it's really an interesting way of looking at the world because it shows you how your personality type behaves if you're in a good place and you're taking care of yourself and you're healthy about it. And then as you are struggling more, it'll show you like these are type of behaviors that you would be likely to start doing if you were in a place that wasn't healthy for you. And so for my personality type, if I was really super stressed out about something, that I would be prone to potentially sabotaging my life to get new experiences, as opposed to like dealing with the reason that I'm trying to run away from whatever's happening, and things like that. So it was interesting to have that laid out in a scientific way so that you could start to kind of notice if you're starting to have a tendency toward making not so healthy decisions as opposed to like healthier ones. And it's been really helpful for me to kind of figure out how I best interact with other people and how other people interact with me too. It's really cool. So I highly recommend everybody go get the Enneagram book. I think the book that I got it on Amazon. And it's called, I think it's like The Wisdom of the Enneagram, I think is what it's called. I'll have to find the title and I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. And I do want, so I think self-awareness is the foundation to everything. And I do courses on self-awareness, and I do support like taking personality tests. I just want to caveat that there's a danger to it because your personality is not set in stone. So, you can change who you are. Like my personality is not what it was 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. I have been a moving target, which is why I can coexist in different states at the same time because of how much like I've continued to grow and change who I am to where when a situation, first off, I'm very conscious when things happen of what I feel, what I think, and I can make in the moment decision of, okay, former me would think that, but I'm going this way. Like, so you can completely change all of that. It takes a lot of work to do it. But if you don't like your behaviors, your personality traits, some of your character traits, by all means, they're not set in stone.
Mm-hmm. I think that the Enneagram is kind of built on your experiences through your childhood and how that's really like informs your animal brain, like your first instinct behavior personality type, I think is what it kind of looks different.
Yeah. So the Lisa, and I forget her last name, she has debunked the whole animal brain concept. It's very, the self-help, self-improvement industry. There's so much of like and I'm not saying the Enneagram is that. I'm just like there's so much of like new research debunks old research, but the new research hasn't caught up. So then people still promote the old stuff, which is like outdated. So it's incredible. I follow a lot of neuroscientists because they're doing all the latest research and they're observing the brain. Like they're truly digging into the capability of the brain. And it's fascinating the way that you see, like, and because I have been on such a journey of constantly changing who I am, when they come out, I'm like, oh, I've known this because I've been like doing it. I'm wearing the t-shirt. The guinea pig. So, because I've spent my whole life being my own guinea pig of, well, I wonder if I can change this about myself. I wonder if this is possible, and just doing it. And now the science is catching up and saying, yeah, we can do all these things.
Yeah. I can't guarantee that there's anything in the Enneagram book that says anything about the animal brain, but I think it, when I read it, I took it to mean like, these are traits that you learned as a kid, and that it's kind of your fallback is to behave that way, and that noticing, that aspect of yourself is your typical kind of go-to if you're not intentionally thinking about what,
especially if you're stressed. If you're stressed and under pressure, you will default to a go-to. And of all the changes, if you put enough stress and pressure or lack of sleep along with stress and pressure, you're going to default to whatever version of the kid that grew up, that had whatever experience. And absolutely.
It's really interesting. And when I was reading through it, it even has information about, here are, if you are in a relationship with someone who's this other personality type, these are the ways that they respond best to criticism. And, like there's certain types that really need you to be super blunt about what you want them to do, or, changes you'd like them to make or whatever. And then there's other personality types that if you were to be really blunt with them, they're like, I can't hear any of that. And they just block it all out. So it's interesting to kind of get an idea of, like, for instance, for me, I need lots of like praise and compliments in my life, or I don't function right. And I start to be like really kind of paranoid about what other people are thinking, and, without reinforcement of that. And I know that it's part of the way that I grew up as a kid, but my husband is totally different, and it doesn't come naturally to him to give anybody praise, and he doesn't like it for himself. So he doesn't do it all the time, or like ever, unless I'm specifically saying I need that because I'm freaking out, So, it's just interesting that I can like recognize now that because of his personality type, that doesn't occur to him because he doesn't want that. And so he doesn't put it out there because that's not how he would want someone to treat him.
To communicate with him and to do,
so it kind of goes along with like your love languages, but it's more of your personality languages is the Enneagram. And it was really interesting when I was reading through the book. It was.
I'm on the end of your husband. It's one thing that I had to realize about myself, and realize as a leader that I might not need it, but others need it. So I need to do it in order for them to be more productive. Mm-hmm. And, so now I do it more naturally, not because I need it, but because I know other people need it. And when people do it to me, it's like, okay, like, I don't care. Can we just get to whatever we're trying to do or whatever? And then, and then if you have a team and you don't appreciate, so as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, if you never celebrate the wins, then your team feels like they're never satisfying you. So you have to take the time to celebrate the wins because they're looking for that.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
So I think definitely if you're in a leadership position, like, again, self-awareness is so key. If you're in a leadership position or any, relationship, you have to know all these things about yourself and about other people, and mm-hmm. figuring out, who they are and how they best react. And so that you get, hate to say it, but, maximum productivity, and they get maximum enjoyment out of what they do.
Exactly. Oh, so deep. Okay. Before I forget, number 3, tell me about a way that you overcame a failure or a mistake and what you learned from it.
It's been a lot of failures. A lot of failures and a lot of mistakes. So Well, and in self-awareness. So I started a tech startup. It was called Why Go Solo. And this was in 1996. And what it was designed to was to get people from offline to online interaction. So I put everything that I had into it. Now looking back, when I say I put everything that I had into it, I didn't, because I should have moved to Silicon Valley, where people would have understood what I was doing, because I was talking about social media. I was connected to Twitter, Facebook. This is when they were just babies. Like I had built something pretty amazing, and I brought together an amazing team to do it. And my shortcomings was sales. So I was pitching investors and, getting nowhere. And then I started pitching venues, because I was telling the venues like, hey, give me some free tickets. We'll promote the event through the process of people connecting together to go to your event. So when they posted a listing on Why Go Solo, it would go to the Facebook feed. It would go to Twitter feed. Again, this is in 1996. And, going to the venues, and I didn't know how to sell. And I always said, well, I don't, it doesn't come naturally to me. I don't know how to do it. And it hadn't clicked. Like, well, you can learn how to do it. Like you can push yourself to do it. And so when I reclaimed the title entrepreneur, I knew I was going into it with a massive shortcoming when it comes to sales. And I started taking some courses and classes in order to, improve my sales game. It's still not that great, but I'm continuing to push myself to make it better. So sending 5-6 emails to people, I'm annoyed when people send me that many emails. And I try, always reply back and say, hey, I'm not interested. So I'm a decision maker. I'm very quick to sell, or you're never going to sell me. So again, look, we were talking about, I'm a certain way. So I expect other people to be the same way, but sales doesn't work that way. There's a process that people over and over and over again have tested, and it works. They can follow, which means you're constantly getting in touch with them and finding, what they need, their pain point and all of that. And to me, it's like, how can you not know your pain point? Like, this is what I have to offer. Yes or no, you're in or you're out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm still working on that, but I failed as an entrepreneur in the past because of that. And I don't want to fail again because of that. So I will do whatever it takes to, get better at it until I can hire people to do it.
Yeah, I think I don't remember the exact statistic, but it's something along the lines of like the average sale needs to have, I think it's like 7 points of contact before people are even going to pay any attention to you at all. So they don't respond to being sold to until they've been sold to like 7 times. And if you think about that as, someone is straight up asking you, do you want to buy this 7 times? But it's not like that. It's more like, hey, do you know that this is a thing?
Yeah. And this is this, and this is this, and this has this benefits. And
so it's like these little touches as opposed to, outwardly shoving it down somebody's face. You're just like, it's little introductions to whatever you're trying to sell them, and how that thing could solve a problem for them, as opposed to, because there are a lot of people, especially creative entrepreneurs, that have a really hard time feeling good ethically about selling things to other people. And a lot of artists who discount their work because they don't want to profit off of something that they love and feel good about.
Yeah.
And so it's a big topic that I talk about on the show a lot. Yeah. It's charging your worth and not discounting your own work and your own labor when you do something that you really love. And I think it's important to let people know that, like, if you really know how your product or your service is helping people to overcome something, to deal with a problem that they've had, to, solve something that's been bothering them and things like that, or to make something easier for them or more special. And like thinking about what are you putting out there and how does it help the world? And instead of, I'm putting this out there and I want you to pay me for it. And it's like you're putting out a solution and people will pay you for the answers. And I think it helps a lot to kind of change your mindset about quote unquote selling, you know. It's like, what are you providing? You know, you're not.
For me, it's more like I'm a decision maker. You don't need to hit me 7 times. Yes. Or like, I know I need that, or I don't. Like, I just need your pitch. What does it do? Does it solve? What problem does it solve? Do I have that problem right now? Yes, no, you know, decision made. But people have very slow decision-making process. Primarily, quite frankly, they lack self-awareness, so they don't know what they want. So they need to be convinced that they want that or that they need it. And I have a tough time with that because it's just not my personality. So yeah, it's kind of like, okay, well, if you need clients in order for your business to be successful, so you need to see them for, you know, where they're at and what they need, and accepting that is definitely like it's a slow moving target. Because I was even like, I'll just go to B2B because businesses, you know, they know what they need at the moment. And it's just as slow as a process when you go to B2B than B2C. So it was my Achilles heels, and it has been the source of many of my failures as an entrepreneur. And I'm not this time around. So.
I love it. Okay, number 4. What one trait or habit is most responsible for keeping you on track?
It's a great question. I would say the fact that I'm a visionary. Yesterday I watched an old movie. Do you remember the movie with Tom Cruise, Vanilla Sky? Mm-hmm. So he goes into a dream state, like the lucid dream, and it's all around a woman. Well, I'm not a I'm not a relationship person. It's not something that registered because I've always had this vision of like what I wanted to bring into the world. So last night as the movie ended, and I was like, oh, I know exactly what my lucid dream would be. So I would actually get to live in the vision and, you know, the world that vision is aiming to create. So I think that's what keeps me going, because if I don't do today what needs to be done, then that tomorrow can never come close to, you know, to what that vision is. And, you know, I have to say though, sometimes that's a great source of pain because it seems so far away, and, you know, it drives me crazy that I am working hard and it's still so far away. So it can be a source of pain, but ultimately it is a source of what keeps me going.
Oh, hashtag oof. Totally feeling that. Like, what? Oh man. Feeling that vision, that's just like thinking about it and kind of living in that daydream, right? Of like how it's going to be, but also like seeing as you get closer, like as big as it could be, keeps getting bigger and further away too. Oh my God, that makes me crazy. But I love it. I love, like, you know, as they say, manifest that shit. Like, you put it out there. I don't know. Some people don't, not that they don't understand, but they've never had that experience of dreaming about something happening and then it actually happening. But that type of stuff happens to me a lot in my life, and like putting it out there and you know, I do vision boards. Usually my vision board always says that I want more time to do stuff. Cause you know, some people put like a fat house or a fat car. Like, mine never has that on it, but like the one that I'm looking at says, you care about beautiful balance. You want the best of both worlds. And you need love and sleep and feel more everyday joy. That's what it says all over it.
That's mine. It's not complete yet, but
I know you can't see mine right now because they're up on the wall.
Yeah. It has a bunch of first time in your experiences and the big conference I want to have, and this is probably conceited, but there's a list of like some major CEO that have done like great things in the world. And I added my name because it said, it has Scott Cook and then ... and I put Ann Bernard because I want to be part of that list.
Oh, so I hear that.
You know, it's the plan is there, you know, the path is there. It's just, but sometimes my father used to tell us, like, when I told my dad I wanted to be a Marine, he went into this story. He's like, oh, someday General Bernard is going to, you know, show up at the house in her helicopter. And he would always paint like these huge, like, scenarios. Like, you gave him one little thing and he painted something huge. So he gifted us with the gift of imagination and of vision, just a tremendous gift to have. But like I said, it can be painful because my reality has very rarely lived up to what I have envisioned. And if someday they line up, wow, it's just going to be.
I know. Oh my God. Like, I remember I wrote a book report about Oprah in 5th grade, and just that I thought she was amazing, and she'd had this amazing life, and she had this talk show, and she had all this influence, and she'd built it all for herself, and that she could have these great conversations with all these cool people and share it out in the world. And I was like, man, someday, I'm like, me and Oprah, we're gonna be homies. It's gonna happen. She just doesn't know who I am, you know? Like, I keep putting it out there. But yeah, like, ever since I became an entrepreneur and started, like, listening to different podcasts of the other entrepreneurs and stories like that. I mean, like, how I built this with Guy Raz, like, I love listening to that show and hearing stories of these amazing entrepreneurs who had this crazy idea and people thought they were nuts and they just did it anyway. And then it blew up and became this huge thing. And I've always, ever since I first heard that show, it's like, I'm going to go on that show. Someday I'm going to be on that show. Like, Guy Raz is going to interview me. I'll be like, you'll never believe where this product came from, you know, like, that I have this great story of where it came from. And it's just so exciting.
Yeah, I love that. I actually posted a thing on LinkedIn today. It's like a note to self, note to future self, because I think it's very important to remember, like, you had the vision and what did you need to get to the next thing? And I'm doing, you know, the Maximize Your Life Summit series, and there's an interview series that's going along with that to highlight all the benefits of first time in your experiences. And I'm trying to get, like, you know, the people whose books I'm reading, whose interviews I'm watching, who, you know, I know their stuff and I'm learning so much from. So I'm trying to book Stephen Kohler to come on to talk about, you know, the role of novelty in accessing flow. And where he actually messaged me back on LinkedIn, and I was like, and of course, he's like, you know, he has a booking agency, and their questions were, you know, who is your audience and how big is your audience? And it's like, why, like, when I'm in that situation, when I'm in those shoes, I'm going to ask the question, like, what is your vision? What is your mission? Like, how can I, you know, how is me helping you, you know, going to be that next step for you? Like, I'm going to be looking for those who are in my shoes, and can I be that breakthrough interview, or can I bring that entrepreneur who, you know, is doing amazing things and they just need the audience instead of, you know, everybody who's made it, you know, who's on the cusp and they just need, like, can I reach down and can I pull you up? Can I help you get your breakthrough? Like, note to self in the future, when you make it in, you remember this and you be that person. Because once you're well known, once you're famous, you're well known, everybody knows who you've done, you're reaching the masses. So can you, like, truly change an individual's lives, like multiple individuals' lives? So I ended up messaging him back and kind of give him that pitch. So we'll see. We'll see if it works.
You know, you got to put it out there. You
totally have to put it out there. I mean,
you know, I had a weird experience like that over in the summer of 2020, or like right around. I actually was like right around this time, like end of April maybe. There was this actor on Instagram who was doing these talk shows from their bed every day. And they would go live on Instagram and then just invite random followers. This famous actor would just invite random people on their follower list to come be on this live show. And instead of the fan saying, oh my God, look who I'm talking to, this famous person, they would interview the follower about their life and what's their
so
experience
cool.
in the pandemic. And they would just have this person to person conversation. And, you know, they're sitting there in their bed, like in their underwear, just hanging out in their house, quarantined like everybody else is. And it was just such this beautiful experience to, as a total extrovert that I am, to have this outlet where I could go on Instagram and watch this show and get to meet all of these new interesting people and hear about their lives and their struggles and just to learn about all these new people. And so the one day after watching the show, they were talking about how they wanted to have poets and musicians come on the show and like kind of do their thing. And I was like, man, I totally want to do that. So, because I've been a poet my whole life and have played music since I was in college, and I was like, yeah, I want to do this. So I had a dream one night that I was on the show, and I knew like what poem that I was going to do and how it was all going to happen. All happened like in the lucid dream type of thing, like being the visionary. And then I woke up that day and I went and I got ready and I went down into my office because my office is downstairs in my house. And I turned on their show and started watching it. And as soon as you turn on an Instagram live video, you can request to be in it. So I hit the button to request to be in it. And like 2 minutes into the show, they were like, okay, let's pick somebody to come on. And they're like, all of a sudden my screen starts doing like connecting. I'm like, no way. Like, I'm about to be on the show. And so I ended up getting interviewed on the show. And it was so much fun and got to connect with them. And then I ended up sending them a thank you care package of stuff from my business, like handmade things that I had made for them. Afterwards, because I had already connected with them through the show, and I just sent them a message and I was like, hey, like, can I make you some special stuff? You don't have to post about it, but if you want to, I'll take it. You know, if you want a little care package, where can I send it? And they actually sent me their home address. It was so cool. So
who
I mean,
was it with?
You put it out there and people love it, you know.
Who was it with?
Nico Tortorella.
So awesome.
You ever watch that show Younger?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you got to watch it.
It's so
look
good.
It up. So good. The final season's about to come out. It's just like that show is, it pushes a lot of social boundaries, but in kind of subtle ways. Like instead of being really overtly inclusive, it just is inclusive. And, you know, they're not like, oh, there's a token lesbian character on the show. It was like, oh, there's this character. This character happens to be a lesbian. This is her girlfriend. And all of that is totally normal. And it's not like a thing. And they kind of address all like these kind of big issues, but in small ways of just normalizing people being non-binary or having different pronouns, and just like, it just is what it is in the culture of the show.
That's awesome.
And it's also a great like brain vacation where you can just go and like live in somebody else's drama and somebody else's comedy and somebody else's life and just get lost in the fun of the story and the people that are on it, the characters and their relationships and stuff like that. Oh, I think I've watched all 6 seasons that are out already, probably 3 times since everything shut down last year, because I was like, what can I do that it's going to take me somewhere else? I'm going to watch this show. And that's like my self-care. It's like, that's my guilty pleasure. It's like watching, as my husband would call it, schlocky TV. Younger is like my favorite schlocky TV. And Nico,
that's awesome that you got to be interviewed. That's so cool.
It was really cool. And I sent them a bunch of cool stuff and some paper flowers, which they then repurposed and decorated their Christmas tree with. And I was like, did you put my flowers in your tree? That's so cool. And like, we did. We love it. We want all paper flowers for next year. So it's just been really cool. I mean, you put it out there and you say, this is somebody who, you know, like people are put it out there as like, oh, I get to connect with so-and-so, this famous person. But I think a lot of connecting to people, kind of envisioning that connection happening in your life, is part of it that is most important, I think, is remembering that person is still just a person.
Yeah.
And they probably also have this grandiose list of people that they thought were really cool that they want to meet someday. And that, yes, they're famous now, but it's, you know, a lot of times decades of struggle and failure and hard work and risk and branching out there and exposure of their own lives that got them where they are in the first place. So I think just kind of, you can reach out to people as people instead of famous people. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Okay. So the last question before I get totally distracted and talk to you all day, I have to go pick something up. So I can't talk to you all day. Number 5, what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten? And what advice would you give other people?
Wow. So I'm going to suck at this one. Best piece of advice I've ever gotten. I hate to say it, but people haven't given me a lot of advice. It's actually that is a huge pain point for me. So I would definitely say finding a mentor, like a proper good mentor who, has walked the path and has figured it out is key. And I have spent decades looking for a mentor, finding that person. And I have reached out to some who never replied back. I've reached out to some who I realize weren't mentor quality. And I'm still looking for that. So I would definitely say find that. And I'm the type of person, again, because I know the pain of being there. If someone comes to me and says, "Hey, can you mentor me?" Be like, absolutely. Like I will, the mistakes that I've made, the lessons I've learned, I will pass those on in a way that helps you achieve what you want to achieve. I had one person who wanted to mentor me at one time, but he wanted me to live the life he didn't get to live. And it's like, that's not how you mentor, dude. I'm not here to do what you never got to do. Like, here's what I want to do. I want to make sure that I don't make mistakes in the process, and getting the proper introduction and connections. I mean, there are things that can truly expedite your success or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. And, tapping into those resources is definitely key. So it has been a huge pain point. And there's a lot of times where, I've prayed on it and I've cried and I've had tantrum about it and I have pity parties about it. And I've always turned to God and I'm like, all right, I guess it's just you and me. Okay, I rather not keep learning everything the hard way. I would like to do it faster and better. Mm-hmm. But it is also great now that there are so many podcasts, there are so many YouTube videos, there's so much out there where, you can get kind of a digital mentor, but if you can find a real person who, has walked the path that you've walked and they can, again, pull you up and get you there much faster. It's a theme for me, raising your potential. We should be pulling each other up so that we can achieve so much more. Humanity has not progressed very much in the last 100+ year. Technology has, the things that we've made have, but human beings, really haven't. And so, solving the problems for the next generation require us to get way past, our petty problems and elevate the way that we think, that we see the world and we interact with each other instead of going backwards. So that's a theme in my life. So if you can pull somebody up, pull them up. And if you need to be pulled up, find the person and reach out to them that can, get you to that next level.
I wholeheartedly agree. I have some resources that I want to share out to our podcast listeners. The 3 organizations that have hands down been influential for me in my professional development and growing my company, and just increasing my capacity to reach more people in the world. First would be NABO, the National Association of Women Business Owners. There are chapters all over the United States, and I believe some international chapters as well. The connections that I've made through NABO have been instrumental in changing the face of my business. And it's not the type of organization where you're going to go and trade a whole bunch of business cards and say, how many leads did I get? Because it's not that type of networking. It is true, network building and resource sharing. And there are so many amazing boss ass type A women who are members of that organization who have run their businesses for decades and just have so much knowledge to share and are willing to connect you with their network and build those relationships with people that they know. And they call it like the NAWBO sisterhood, and it totally is. It totally is. I mean, if you can put it out there and say, I'm looking for help with this, and there's just people just convene to bring you solutions to those. And it's really awesome. Not to mention there's like financial perks at different affiliate businesses and whatnot. So I would definitely go check out NAWBO. They're currently doing a membership drive until the end of April where you can save $45 if you want to join. So I would check that out, nawbo.org. The next organization is called Ureeka, UREEKA.biz, BIZ. And it's kind of like Facebook for entrepreneurs. And it's a whole online platform, online community that was founded by people who wanted to be able to make access to financial resources, capital, coaching, training, mentorship. They wanted to make sure that that was accessible to all entrepreneurs and not just rich white guys. And it's so cool the way that they have put together all these amazing trainings and coaching programs that you can do. They have lists of grants that are specific for women and people of color. And they're amazing. They are amazing. So go and check out Ureeka.biz. The people who founded it were all very successful entrepreneurs in their own right for a long time. And they said, we don't want to start a company where you couldn't just come and talk to me. So you can join the platform and literally book a meeting with any of the people who founded this company and have a meeting and talk to them about anything that you want. It's so cool. It is so cool, and has just been a same deal. It's been really instrumental in helping me figure out the real nitty gritty things about running a business, making sure that my website is optimized and that I have the proper content on each page, and figuring out my marketing strategy, and really like step by step going through all those things that they tell you you're supposed to do as an entrepreneur. But if no one is actually showing you how to do that, it can be really daunting to figure out all those little nitty gritty steps. So that's my second thing. And the third thing is, if you have a conscious company, a company where you purposefully put people over profits, and that you have a mission and a vision for change in the world, then you should check out this organization. It's called ShiftCo. Their website is shiftco.org. And it is this international organization for conscious companies. And it involves progressive coaching and mentorship that changes with you as your business progresses and grows. And so every 3 months, you go through a different aspect of this coaching program that they have, and reevaluate your business to figure out what one thing you really need to focus on for those 3 months. And you focus really intensely on fixing that and building that up and getting that really strong. And then you reevaluate, and then you move to the next phase, and you move to the next phase. And as you come in kind of like at the bottom of like starting a new business, as you move on up and your business grows, then you become the mentor for the new people who are coming in. And they also have a platform that works kind of similar to kind of like Facebook and LinkedIn. It's got a news feed in it, and you can connect with all the members across the world. And they have kind of virtual hub meetings, so you can get together and actually get to know the people. But then they also have like the coaching and training aspects of it built in. It's really super cool. It's really cool. So check those all out. NAWBO, Ureeka, ShiftCo.
Sorry, can I add a fourth one? Although it's so this is for veterans and military spouses, and it's called Bunker Labs, and their cohort. You can apply right now for the upcoming cohort, and it includes 6 months of like free workspace with WeWork, and same thing, mentoring and assistance and all of that. So I've been a city leader, it's an ambassador for them, but again, all my plans for 2020 went to crap, but I've applied now. So so that's another, it's a veteran community, a military community to tap into that want to help veterans become entrepreneurs and make that transition and provide the resources to do that. But I'm totally going to check out those other organization that you mentioned.
They're really cool. What was the can you spell out the organization so we make
Bunker Labs. So bunker, like a bunker, and then labs. So yeah, .org.
Yeah, .org. Okay, so we'll make sure we have that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Anne, for being here today. What a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
To document my first time stories and to work with you more in the future. Can you tell everyone where they can find you on the interwebs?
Yes. So you can find me YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Anne Bernard. So Instagram, Anne_Bernard, and most of everything else is Anne Bernard. That's early enough. I was on early enough to get my name. So, yeah. Okay. And I can't wait to have you on the First Time Storytelling broadcast. So definitely going to do a lot more together. So feel like I found a sister.
Oh, see, things that would never have happened had it not been for 2020. It was like connecting with so many amazing people who live far away from me, who I've never actually met in real life. So I hope everyone listening to the show has learned something new today and has been inspired to go have a new experience, a new first time of doing something. And I hope that you will check out Anne's hashtag. And once the app is back up and running in better order, we will make sure to have good links for where to do that. But you should go try it and see if it works. And thank you so much for listening and watching on the Reach the Stars podcast. And we challenge you to go do something cool and then tell us about it. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next week.
A single interaction has the power to change your life forever. This is a place for the stories of those moments. Stories of pursuing dreams, overcoming tragedy and failure, of coming back to life after so much of what feels like dying, of continuing on with only a vision as a map. This is the place where those moments live on. Come sit by the fire, look up at the stars, and be forever changed too.
Thank you for being with us on the Reach the Stars podcast. Our theme music is generously provided by Byrocratic. You can find him on bandcamp.com. Thank you to all of our current patrons, guests, and everyone else who helps make this dream a reality. We are so proud to be building this amazing community with all of you. If you love this podcast, please consider sharing with a friend, leaving a review on iTunes, and becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/reachthestars. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see the videos of these conversations. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, do something cool and tell us about it.